topography, a very important thing that when you go for the clinicals and you get a graph like this, then you should know what is this, okay? How you will interpret. So this is the thing you'll get in the clinical most of the time, and when you go for antenatal examination and patient in labor, these things are done. So this is cardiotocography. So if you see, cardiac topography is the graphic recording. So it is recording, we can understand what is the condition of the fetus, what is the condition of the mother, what are the uterine contraction, how to calculate this heart rate. It's the other form of ECG you can say. So this is the method by which cardiotocography is done. So it is not an invasive procedure. The steps are made. One is for the fetal heart rate. Another is to understand the uterine contraction. And this is the machine. So both the transducers, they're connected to the abdomen. And mother is also given this thing. So whenever she feels the fetal moment, she can just push this button. So we can record the fetal moment also. So let's study this cardiotocography. So you can see this cardiotocography paper, and the above reading, this is for fetal heart. This gives the recording of fetal heart, and the below one is for uterine contraction. Okay, these are the two parts. So any cardiotocography paper is for 20 minutes. Remember that it's for 20 minutes. So in a 20-minute session, you need to study at least the 10-minute paper. At least half of the paper you should try to study it. So what are the things? So this is the fetal heart rate. This is the uterine contraction. Okay, wait, just hold on. Yeah. So in this cardiotocography, you will find this paper like this, not exactly like ECG paper, but many things are common. So you have to remember this thing, that these are two dark lines which are 1 minute apart. Okay. So in 1 minute, the paper moves 3 centimeters. So in 1 minute, there is 6. Okay. So there are 6 in 1 minute between the dark lines. So one little box is 10 seconds. Okay. Wait, where is my cursor? Yeah. So this is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. Okay. One box, 10 seconds. So 10 seconds, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds. So this is 1 minute. So if you travel from here to here, it will take you 1 minute. So if you travel only 2 boxes, then you have taken 20 seconds. If you have traveled 3 boxes horizontally, so you have taken time is 30 seconds. So one small box is 10 seconds, you remember that. And one more big box, the distance between 2 dark lines is 1 minute. Okay. So this is a normal antenatal cardiotocography. So many of the time you will be confused what is a non-stress test, NST. So when a patient is not in labor, then we call this NST. It is same recording. But when a patient is not in labor, then we call this NST, non-stress test. And when patient is in labor, we call it CTG, cardiotocography. Okay. So we follow this formula. We'll follow this protocol. So how to read a cardiotocography will be Dr. C. Brevedo. This is the whole universal mnemonic. So D for define risk, C for contraction, baseline, variability, acceleration, deceleration, and overall. So in any cardiotocography paper, you have to do all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 readings. 7 things you need to understand. Then finally in the overall, you'll comment your reading result. So define risk means what are the risks. So you have to define the risk, what are the conditions you'll do. So you can do it antenatal also. Okay, you can do it antenatal also, but in antenatal means before labor. So before labor, if you do, we usually don't say CTG, we say it non-stress test. Okay. So any cases of gestational diabetes or mother is having hypertension, asthma, we must have a periodic CTG. Or in obstetric complications like multiple gestations, like twin pregnancies, or already post-matured, or the mother has a history of previous cesarean section, or on the ultrasonography, you recorded that there is IUGR, or membranes have already ruptured, or any sort of genetic or congenital defective. Or if you have oxygen, if you have given oxytocin and the labor has not started, then also you can look for the CTG result or any sort of preeclampsia, that is must. So these are the obstetric complications. So first you have to define risk. Dr. C. Bravedo, DR. DR for defined risk. You see, these are the risk factors. Means these are the indications. Is these any of these indications are present that you want to do CTG? Okay, these are not so other risk factors. Okay. Contractions. So these are the it's not so sequence. Huh? Yeah. So first you will go for contraction. C for uterine contraction, uterine contraction. So you see this CTG, these are the contractions. So the best CTG is that there should be at least 2 contractions in 10 minutes. So okay, let's find out. Now this is the fetal heart rate. This is uterine contraction. So we'll focus first on the uterine contraction. Let's see. Now these are 2 dark lines. See, 2 dark lines. So this is 1 minute. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from here, this is 10 minutes session. From here, how many contraction you see? Look, this is uterine contraction. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is very good contraction. Actually, the patient is in labor, you can say. So in labor, still the contraction is not started. So basically in labor, you'll see this peak between 60 and 80. The uterus will contract between 60 and 80. When we can say there is a labor. Okay, so uterus is contracting now, labor has started, but not yet. The contraction is not so much that baby can be delivered. So there is more than 2 contraction in 10 minutes of paper. Okay, 2 contraction, more than 2 contraction is good. So DRC, then baseline. Now we have to find a baseline of the heart, fetal heart. So look here, these are the numbers, heart rate 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. So what will you do? You'll take at the midpoint of the first reading here and draw a straight line. Just draw a straight line between all these waves. So from where this wave, straight line, middle line, means you take this first peak and draw a straight line here. So this line should pass between all the waves. So when you draw a line through all these waves, it will usually goes between this 120 and 140. Usually goes in 130. So normal heart rate, that is fetal heart rate, that is 130. This is a normal heart rate. Okay. So you can see this is baseline is 120, 140, and it goes here in. So if you draw a baseline here, you see this part. The baseline here is 120. If you draw here, it comes around 130. So this is normal. So between 120 to 160 is normal. Okay, so fetal heart rate, that's how you'll measure the heart rate. So this is a fetal heart rate. Okay? 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. So the highest point is called peak and the lowest point is called trough. So you'll take a midpoint between the peak and the trough of the highest one and draw a midline. So it goes at the level of 130. Okay, so that is the baseline heart rate. So if you see here, the uterus is contracting 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 contraction in 10-minute paper. There is 10 minutes, 1 minute. This is 1 minute. 2 big lines are dark. So if the fetal heart rate is more than 160, then we call it fetal tachycardia. So tachycardia, fetal heart rate is increased. Whenever fetus is in stress, heart rate will increase. So any condition of increasing fetal stress, like low oxygen or low blood supply, or you can say this, you can say fetal hypoxia, chorioamnitis. This is one word we can say uteroplacental insufficiency. When there is low oxygen or low blood is coming to the placenta and fetus is having hypoxia, then the fetus will, that is a compensatory mechanism, the heart rate will go up. So 160 beats per minute is more than 160 is called tachycardia, fetal tachycardia. Same way bradycardia, less than 100. So it is common to have a baseline heart rate of 100 to 120 in post-mature, okay, in post-mature pregnancy, or when the presentation is occipital posterior. If you remember from your year 3, we studied a lot about occipital anterior and posterior positions. But if the bradycardia is present, if there is constant throughout the 20-minute session, there is less than 100. Okay, so look here, severe prolonged bradycardia less than 80 for more than 3 minutes indicates severe hypoxia. Okay, fine. But if it is less than 100 in the whole 20-minute session, if the fetal heart rate is less than 20 minutes in the whole 20-minute session, then let's say, wait, I'm going here and there. But I missed the slide. Then this is usually cord compression. Whenever the cord is compressed, then it can lead to severe bradycardia. And how to identify in CTG? There's a constant decrease of the heart rate. But this is not the only thing. We have to also look at the variability, which we'll discuss next. Okay. So variability. What is variability? Look here in the ECG. In the CTG variability. You see these waves. This is the fetal heart. So fetal heart rate is not like waves are not like us, not like adult. So in adult, you can get a constant ECG. Okay, there's a constant wave of PQRST, PQRST. But in fetus, you can see it jumps. So here the beat is 146. Next moment, the beat is at 130. Again 130. Okay, 130, 130. Again it jumps to 140 plus 150. So it makes a up and down lot of waves. So the heart rate is not at constant 140 or 150. It will one moment it will go to 150. After a few seconds it will come to 140. So you have to find the now average. Yeah. So how much is the variable? How much is changing? So find the highest peak. This is at 150. You can see this is 140. This is 150. The peak is at 150 to 153 like that. And find the trough. So the highest is the peak, lowest is the trough. Find the trough. Trough is at 120. So trough is at 120. Or the lowest trough, you can say this is the lowest trough of whole CTG. It is at 110. So this is 110. The lowest trough is 110. Highest is 150. So this variable is, there should be some variable. So normal is 10 to 25. It should be more than 10, you can say. So normally it should be more than 10, means it's 150, then it goes for 40, 30, 20. So it will fluctuate. So that fluctuation we are calling it variability. So normally it's a variable. It should jump from high to low or low to high like that. But as long as it is in the limit, there is more than 110 and less than 160, it is normal. So normal variability indicates an intact neurological system. So it should be between 5 to 25 beats per minute. Okay, so that's why you should understand what is the peak, what is the trough. So peak is the okay. So this is the peak, and this is the trough. So now let's take this wave. This is 150. This trough is at 120. So sorry, the next bit. Sorry, the peak. This trough. This is 120, 150. And just come down to 120. The next bit, you see, next bit is at 130. So it has gone 150. Next is 130. So what is the difference? 20 bits difference. So first bit is here 150. Then it is the next bit is at 130. So 150 minus 130 is 20 bits. So still it's in a normal range. So the fetal heart rate should be variable. It should be variable. It should not be constant. When there is a constant, that is a problem here. Okay, these waves are dancing waves. It's coming from 140, 136, 130, 138. It should move like that. But if it is a constant like human being, adult, then it's a problem. So we categorize the variability as reassuring, non-reassuring, and abnormal. Okay. So number one, reassuring means if you take the mother for CTG test and you see the variability is between 5 to 25, you reassure her that everything is normal and you can go back. So that's a reassuring. But if for some reasons there is non-reassuring, means less than 5, there's no variability at all, less than 5 or more than 25, then we have to do some other checkups, other ultrasounds, we do the other tests, okay, to find out what is the problem. Then that is called non-reassuring. Okay, if there is the variability less than 25 or more than 25. But if the variability is 5, between 5 and 25, then you reassure her that is everything okay and go back. You can go now. So everything is normal here. And if it is less or more than 25 or less than 5, then we call it non-reassuring. And what is abnormal? If it is less than 5 for more than 50 minutes. In consecutive 2 readings, if it is less than 5 or more than 25. Okay. We can also find reduced variability. Sometimes during fetal sleep, look, this is the reduced variability. If you see, this is reduced. Let's see the peak. It's at 150 here, 150, and the trough is also 150, almost close. And next wave is also 150. Look, all the waves are similar. 150, heart is beating, and 150. So variable, it is less fluctuation, means reduced variability. Now that is not normal, but it is not physiologically. You can find when the fetus is sleeping. Now remember, the sleep hours of a fetus is 75 minutes. The fetus sleep for 75 minutes, then it will again wake up and go its all activities and come back. So when it does all activities and jumping all around and playing all around, then we'll see the variability. We'll see the variability in between 5 to 25. But if the fetus is sleeping, then it's 25. Sorry, it's less than, you can say reduced variability less than 5. But what are the other cases when they can say reduced variability? Any cases of hypoxia, that is one term I told you, uteroplacental insufficiency, like acidosis, having tachycardia, okay, like there is sedative agent. If the mother is having some sedation, like opiates, benzodiazepine, mother is sedated by drugs, then also you can get reduced variability. Also, variability is reduced at earlier before 28 weeks. Now, why 20? Now, all this variability, now remember the fetal heart. Now we know even in adult that our heart rate is controlled by our autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So this sympathetic and this vagus nerve. So this vagus nerve or the sympathetic nervous parasympathetic nervous system, which influence our heart, it is fully developed only after 32 weeks. So before 32 weeks, you can say, or before 28 weeks, you can see the variability can be reduced if you do it. If you do this test before 28 weeks or before 32 weeks, you might get reduced variability because the autonomic nervous system is not fully developed. Okay, but if it's a patient of labor, you will find this, then that's a problem. Okay, so this variability, you see, this variability is quite less in comparison to this. This is a very good fetus. We're having jumping all around. This is lots of variability. So look at the variability. 150 bit. This is 150 bit, and the next bit is at 140. So there is change of 20 bits. And again, see the 140, 150. Sorry, change of 10 bits. So there is a variability of 10 bits every time. So first peak is 40, next is 130, 130, 130, 150. So there is variability is between below 25. So this is a healthy baby which is all jumping around, and so the variability is present. But this is, if we have done before 28 weeks, we can say this is normal because autonomic nervous system has not yet developed. Okay, but during labor, if you find like this, then this is not normal. This can be a case of uteroplacental insufficiency, or mother is sedated, or most of the cases, or most fortunately, if the fetus is sleeping, then we can get. Otherwise, it's not a good news if you get this type of readings in a patient of labor. Now, acceleration. The heart rate can accelerate. So if the heart rate is greater than 15 beats per minute for 15 seconds, remember one small box is 10 seconds. Okay, so 1.5 box we are talking about. Acceleration. Let's find the acceleration. Okay, so this is the baseline. We do the baseline here. Draw a baseline here. So baseline comes around 120, 122. Baseline heart rate. Okay, so let's find the variability first. So let's say this heart rate is 140. Next is at 124. So below 25, change is below 25. So variability is also normal. And then acceleration. Now suddenly you see some heart rate has increased. So 120, 120, 120, suddenly it will increase to a one, it will jump for 140, 150, or 160 like that. So that jump suddenly is called acceleration. So what is acceleration? Abrupt increase in baseline heart rate for more than 15 seconds. More than 15 seconds. Okay. So this is 10 seconds. You see this, it says gun, this is the baseline, 130, 1 120 close, 122, 123, and suddenly it take a peak. Okay, so where it goes up to 150 here, 150. Now let's see the distance. So this is the wide distance. Okay, so one box is 10 seconds. This is 20 seconds. So it can say 30 seconds. So it is more than 15 seconds. So what we call acceleration when the baseline heart rate of greater than 15 beats for more than 15 seconds. So presence of acceleration is reassuring. It is normal. Okay, but when the acceleration is not there, then it's a problem. Otherwise, absence of presence of acceleration is reassuring. Means if you find acceleration, it is reassuring. It is reassuring. It is a sign of a healthy fetus. There will be some accelerations. Fetus will jump here and there. The heart rate will jump. Okay, because of this autonomic activity. So more than 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. If you take this distance, so it is more than 15 seconds. More than 15 beats. Okay, more than 15. Let's say the baseline is this. Let's say the draw a baseline here. Where the baseline is 124. This is 124. And then the peak is at 150. So 150 minus 124 is more than 15. So it is good. Good acceleration. More than 15 beat. More than 15 seconds. So that is acceleration. Now deceleration, when there is decrease. Okay, when there is decrease. Now remember when I showed deceleration. Okay, so deceleration again we differentiate into three types: early, then late, and variable. Now see this heart has deaccelerated. The heart rate has gone down up to 80 and it has gone up to 90. Okay, it has gone up to 90. What is the baseline here? 120, 124 like that. If you draw a midline, crossing through all the midpoint is 120, say 120. Now its heart rate has gone down to 80, 82, 83 like that. So that is called deacceleration. Now when you find a deacceleration, you see with this. This is a uterine contraction. And if you see this downward, it is just at the moment when uterus has contracted. So why this is? Because when uterus has contracted and the head is engaged, when the head is inside the pelvis, now head is trying to find a way. So when the uterus has contracted, the whole head is compressed by the uterine muscles. So when the whole head is compressed by the uterine muscles, then there is vagal stimulation. Vagus will be stimulated and it will cause the heart rate to go down. So this is quite normal when the uterus has contracted. The cursor, when the uterus has contracted, look here, uterus has contracted and heart rate has gone down. This is very common question asked and you should know this physiology. Okay, so look, it is just falling on the, where is the cursor? Okay, so it is falling on the moment when the uterus is contracted. So when the uterus is contracted and head is now inside the pelvis and going to finding the way, it is finding the way and the head is compressed. So when the uterus contracts, you know the whole uterine muscles is pressing against the head. So head is literally, it is suffocating. So when the head is compressed everywhere by the uterine muscles inside the pelvis, what will happen? There will be hypervagal stimulation. So when the vagus nerve is stimulated, that is parasympathetic, then heart rate will suddenly goes very down. And this is normal. It shows that there is a patient is in labor. So uterine contraction following a deacceleration. This is called early deacceleration. Okay, early deacceleration. It is falling at the time when the uterus is contracted. So there is another contraction here. So another deacceleration here when there is this contraction. So it's falling at the straight line. Look, it's falling at a straight line. When there are two deacceleration in this whole strip. One deacceleration falling at the uterine contraction. Second deacceleration also falling at the uterine contraction. This is early deacceleration. Now, if you will find late deacceleration, this is called late. You see, this deacceleration, heart rate has gone down. It is not falling on the contraction of the uterus. It has gone a little bit late. That's why we call it late. It is falling here. If you draw a straight line, it is falling here, late deacceleration. So let's find the first baseline. So in every CTG you'll get in the exam, you have to find a baseline, okay? Like an ECG, you find the baseline. So let's find the baseline, draw a line, and it comes through 122, 123 like that. So this is the baseline. So you can say round figure 120 beats per minute is normal. Next, after you find the variability. Okay, so variability, let's say take any peak. So this is 130. Next is 130, 130, 130. Is it variable? 140, 140. Highest is 140. Again, it's coming to, let's take this one, 140. And next peak is at 122. So there is a variable. There is a variable. Okay, this is the variability of 15, 16 like that is a variable. Okay. So let's say this one is 150 and the next bit is at 130. So there is a variability of 20. So variability is present of 20 bits. Then next is acceleration. So there is a one peak. This is acceleration. This is another acceleration. This is another acceleration. Let's take this acceleration. This is quite prominent. So let's take this acceleration. How much is it accelerated from here? So this was so your baseline was 120. So it is accelerated up to 150, close to 150. So acceleration is from 120 to 150, 30 bits. Okay. So this is 130. Sorry, this is 130. This line is going to 130. Next is at 140, close to 150. So there is a 20 bits it has accelerated. What is the timing? So one box is 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10, 13, 14 seconds around. So it has gone half of this one, half of this one. So around 13 seconds. So it is normal. Okay, 15 bits per 15 seconds. So there is a deceleration. Now find the deceleration. So heart rate has gone down twice here, but these are not falling at the time of uterine contraction. So as they are not falling on the time of uterine contraction, this is a case of late deceleration. Okay, so late deceleration, as we know, one word, uteroplacental insufficiency. When there is a less blood in the placenta, so fetus goes for hypoxic cases. So when there's fetal hypoxia, preeclampsia, all these things, okay, then it can cause late deacceleration like this. Now variable deacceleration. Variable deacceleration means when the contraction and there's no relation of this deacceleration and contraction. It is falling everywhere. It is falling here. There's no relation to the contraction. Contraction is here, here, not even, it's not early or not late. It is falling in the middle. It's not late. Okay, not early. It's falling in the middle. So this is a variable deacceleration. So whenever there is any cause of cord compression, okay, so you remember that very common umbilical cord compression. So when there is a compression, cord compression, then the heart will behave like this. This is a late deacceleration. Variable deacceleration in cases of umbilical cord compression. Late deacceleration. So it's variable deacceleration. It's not falling at the time of uterine contractions. Other than that, you can also find sinusoidal pattern, sine wave. It's a sine wave. You can see here the baseline is 120, and it's not zigzag, so we know there is something problem. Severe fetal hypoxia cases. Okay, or there is maternal bleeding. For placenta previa, you'll get a sinusoidal wave. Normal wave should be zigzag. More is the zigzag, healthy is the baby. Remember that. More it is nice, pattern is nice. High chances of stillbirth. Okay, there's a placenta previa. Any sort of internal bleeding can lead to sinusoidal wave. So now, lastly, you have to make an overall impression. So you have to overall impress. You have to write your report. So what will you write in this report? So in this report, what will you write? You will write from DRC Dr. C. Bravedo. So when you get this paper in the exam, so last year also they got a CTG. Okay, when you get this paper, suppose, so you will define risk, DR. So what are the indications? It will try to identify the patient, if the patient is any risk factors are present. Then C for contraction. So you look for uterine contraction, there is contraction, the patient is in labor, it has gone beyond 40, patient is in labor. Okay. So it is not the labor, when there is active in the second stage of labor, it will touch in the 70, 80 like that. Okay. So it's gone beyond 40, so not Braxton. So in Braxton Hicks, or when patient is not in labor, they can still show some contraction, that is Braxton Hicks contraction. That is usually around 20. But here this patient is in labor, it has gone beyond 40. So patient is in labor. So C for contraction. Okay. Vector C, bravado B for then baseline. You have to draw the baseline. Draw the baseline of the heart rate. It goes around 120 to 120. We write the baseline heart rate as 122 beats per minute. Then R for okay. Then what is it after B? Yeah, what is it coming after B? Vector C, bravado.
V.
What? Tell me.
Variability.
Yeah, variability. So variability, you have to find the variability. Then you have to find what is the variable. This is close to 130. This bit has gone up to 140 to 143 like that. So it is around 10, 12 variable. And the time you can see 10 seconds variable. Okay, so that's how you write the variability. Then find about acceleration, find a peak. These are accelerations. Find the peaks. Okay, find a peak. So how much it has gone to the peak. So your baseline, you have to find a peak from your baseline. So your baseline is here, we already noted it at 120. So find the peak, it is at 144 like that. So it is a variable of around 24, 25. Less than 15 seconds. If this peak is more than 15 seconds. Okay. So this is 10 seconds, another half 12 to 3 seconds here. So around 15 seconds you can say. So variable is okay. Then acceleration, find the acceleration, then find the deceleration, and then you write. So you have to put it in the wait. So you have to know all these things, huh? So we'll go for tomorrow again, some other things in CTG. Yeah. So when you write your answer in the exam paper, you write in this format. So you write this format. So you write the contraction, then you find the baseline rate. So after doing the baseline, you find the variability. Then you'll find acceleration, then deceleration. Then you'll comment that is normal, not normal, percentage. So what will you comment? Comment is assuring, reassuring, non-reassuring, or abnormal. You'll comment on that. So everything is normal, you write reassuring. If it is not so normal but close to normal, then you write non-reassuring but needs more test. And if it is severe, there is like sine wave, you write abnormal. If you find severe sine wave or this variable dip. So what is the things to be noted here? So what are the things that can give you warning sign is reduced variability. This thing you will take it very seriously if there's reduced variability. Okay, no zigzag pattern. Sorry, zigzag pattern is there, but it is very, very almost same. Okay, not much variable, not much fluctuation. And if you find variable deceleration, so late deceleration also needs intermittent, immediate action. Okay, because it can be uterine placental insufficiency, and variable is very, very urgent condition. Okay, any sort of bleeding, umbilical cord compression can lead to variable decompression. It's all because of autonomic nervous system. Remember. So why, how? Condition is autonomic nervous system, ANS. The whole fetal heart is it is monitored and totally controlled by parasympathetic nervous system, autonomic. Another thing that you will take it is sinusoidal. It's also very, very bad news. So literally, your good ECG, a good CTG is should be zigzag. It should be zigzag. Zigzag, more variable, more acceleration. Okay, are good. So there is no deceleration. You see, no deceleration. Okay, but there is uterine contraction. Labor has started, but you don't see any deceleration. Means this is not yet, head is not yet engaged. Once the head is engaged, it will be compressed when the uterus will contract, and there will be vagal stimulation.